Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and today I'm going to be doing an analysis of the LeanTossup presidential model. So I'll also do one of their Senate model later on in another video, but now I just want to go over their popular vote prediction and their electoral map prediction. And I'm going to be seeing if their predictions are viable. So I'm just going to start off by looking at their popular votes prediction. So let's get into that. This is their popular vote prediction. They have Trump getting 44% of the votes and Joe Biden getting 54% of the vote, with third parties getting 2%, which is a significant decrease from 2016 where they got 8% or around that much. But I personally don't think that it will go down by that much. Maybe it goes to 5%, 6%, but I don't think that third-party voters will. I don't think that the amount of the support that they get will dwindle down by that much. So I disagree with that, and it appears that a lot of those voters here are going to Joe Biden. But I do believe that, say, around like 60-70% of Gary Johnson voters, for example, would have went to Trump, and basically all the Constitution Party voters would have went to Trump. And it could be more split with the Evan McMullin voters, just because Evan McMullin's endorsement of Joe Biden. But still, it's going to be hard to get solid Republican voters in solid Republican states to go over to a Democrat, especially one who served as the vice president under a president who they strongly disliked. So yeah, 44 is not a lot. It's less than what John McCain got in 2008, and what Biden got in their prediction is more than what Obama got in 2008. And I think that's really the ceiling that anybody, Democrats especially, could get as of now when the country is so partisan. And the gap between them is 10%. Here it's less than that. I have to go back to not 2004, not 2005. Even the 1996 electoral landslide that Bill Clinton had, he still only lost by roughly 9. He only won by roughly 9 points against Bob Dole. So you could keep on going, even when he won by 370 electoral votes to 168 for George H.W. Bush. The gap was only 6%. So I don't believe this number. It's going to be. I believe that it will be under 5%. You could say maybe 4%, 3%, around that number. And it's going to be very difficult for Joe Biden to get over 50%. It doesn't. It does happen sometimes, but you see that Bill Clinton couldn't get that. But I know that Ross Perot is running then as a third party. But even in 2000, none of them got over 50%. It did happen in 2004, though, but not in 2016. So their popular vote prediction is horrible. But let's look at their electoral map predictions now. So I'm going to start off by filling in safe states, and those are states that would go by over 15%. And this is their prediction. All three of these states on the Pacific coast, they're going to go to Joe Biden by a safe margin. New Mexico, Colorado. Colorado is likely, so I'm not going to touch that yet. Let's look. DC, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, all of the Northeast going to Joe Biden by a safe margin. And also Maine's 1st Congressional District. Yeah. So that's the safe states. Also Illinois. Yeah. It is possible that one of the traditionally likely Democratic states is safe in this map just because of the have this model skew so much in favor of Joe Biden, but we'll have to look. I'll see if there is one. But now let's look at the likely states like Colorado, which is almost safe in here, which I think is it's difficult to imagine that just because it went by 5% to Hillary Clinton, so that swing is 9%, and that's a lot, especially for a swing state. And I don't think that the demographics in the state could have shifted it so much to the left in only 4 years. So I do believe that it will go to Joe Biden by around 9%, something like that. But I believe that 14% is too much. Same thing with Nevada. I think that will go by a lean margin, not likely margin, but yeah, they have it as likely. And Arizona, that's almost likely, which that's interesting, but I don't agree with that call. They have Minnesota as likely. They have Michigan as likely. They have Pennsylvania as likely, and they have Wisconsin as likely. So all of the Rust Belt is likely, which I find that difficult, especially now that the race is tightening up again. Maybe when Trump was at his lowest point in, say, May or early June or throughout June, maybe then it could seem plausible that the Rust Belt states would go by over 5% to Joe Biden, but now the race is tightening up in places like Wisconsin, especially in places like Kenosha and Milwaukee. You could see Joe Biden. You could see Trump narrow margins, not significantly, but just enough to narrowly edge out a victory there. But for now, I still do think that it will go to Joe Biden. I think that Michigan and Minnesota are going to get closer. Same thing with Pennsylvania. But for the most part, I do think that the Rust Belt will stay with the Democrats as of now. But it is possible that Trump flips it, and I wouldn't discredit him so far out. So, yeah, that's what they think for the Rust Belt. New Hampshire is likely. Maine at large is likely. Virginia is likely, but almost safe. You can see it's only is going to Joe Biden here by 14.5%. So yeah, I believe that's it for the likely states. Oh, I forgot about Hawaii before. Sorry about that. Now let's go to some of the safe Republican states like Idaho, Utah. Utah's not likely. I don't agree with that, especially. I think it will go by, say, around 30%, 35% this time around. Even if McMullen voters go by 50%, which I take that back, they won't. Now, looking back, I think that it will be more lopsided in favor of Trump, because I don't think that his position on this is as popular as some people expect it to be. I think that a lot of his supporters will just flock to Trump, or maybe they go for George Jorgensen. So, no, I don't think that's going to be. I don't think that's going to be likely. I think it's going to be safe, but alas, that's what they have it classified as. Idaho, Wyoming, North Dakota, and South Dakota, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. I'm going to fill all of those in. Not Montana. Okay, let's look at Kansas. That one is likely. I don't really see the reasoning behind why it would be classified as likely. But yeah, that's what they have. Nebraska at large is safe. The 1st and 2nd congressional districts are, 3rd congressional districts are safe. And let's look at some of these other Republican states. Missouri is likely. I've already explained why this one isn't likely, but I don't really understand the reasoning behind it. It was close before, but I don't see it getting close anytime in the near future. Kentucky, Tennessee, those ones are safe. Alabama is safe. Mississippi is likely. South Carolina and Louisiana are likely. I don't understand why they have Louisiana as closer than South Carolina, especially looking at previous trends in those states. But a lot of their margins are really wacky. But when you just look at like the classifications, like lean likely, it seems more reasonable. But even then, Louisiana being likely is a stretch. Indiana, that one's likely. West Virginia, that one's also safe. Alaska, I'm assuming that's likely. Yep. That's really close, especially on the presidential level. I do know that there are a lot of never-Trumpers there, and I would also classify it as likely, but probably around 14%, nowhere near lean. In Iowa, it's tilt. In Nebraska, 2nd Congressional District, it's actually likely. That's surprising, just because even Obama, he won there by a tilt margin in 2008. So it hasn't gone to a Democrat since the Democrats lost there in the midterm wave election year in 2018. Don Bacon held on to his seat by around the same margin that Trump did. So it's difficult to see Joe Biden winning there, not to mention the fact that they have it is going to him by a likely margin. And now let's look at some of these southern states. Florida, lean. Georgia, lean. And North Carolina, likely. I don't get why they would have North Carolina as likely and not Florida as likely. If anything, Florida would be the first one to flip before North Carolina. And yeah, Georgia, it's really I don't believe that it will get close to 2% for Joe Biden. I don't believe that he'll be able to win there. I think that Trump will win there by, say, around 3%. So putting it as a lean state, not even in a best case scenario, just in a regular prediction, is a pretty bad call. Montana, that one's barely likely. I don't understand why. In 2016, it went to Trump by over 50%. He improved on Mitt Romney's margins, actually. Or I might be mistaken about that, but apologies. But I might be mistaken about that. But even if that's true, the margin, the trend towards the Democrats was so small that say we keep on, it keeps on swinging, say, by 1% to the Democrats, leading up to 2020 and during the election, and the margin would still be safe, and it wouldn't even be close to 7%. Alright, now we have to look at Ohio. Ohio, that one's a lean state for the Democrats. And surprisingly, Texas, it's not even tilt for the Democrats. It's a lean margin, and look, the margin is even larger for Biden in Texas than in Georgia, even though Texas went to Trump by 9% in 2016, and Georgia only went in by 5%. So a lot of these margins are just really hard to understand. Like, you have Louisiana going by less than South Carolina, Texas going by more than Georgia. So yeah, all of that is really weird. This prediction is just I don't understand their methodology. I'd like to look through, because they have a lot of explaining to do, especially about flipping Texas. That's a huge stretch. By now, it could be in between lean and likely. So yeah, it's a lean here, and Arizona barely lean state, almost likely. It's difficult for some people to see it flip for for Joe Biden, let alone it going to him by around 5%. So don't understand the reasoning, because even if he does win there, it's not going to be by 5%. He's underperforming with Hispanics, and it has been a reliably Republican state for a while now. I know that it's getting very close, in that I actually do believe that it will flip, but it's very difficult to argue that Arizona would flip, and by that amount, it would, if it does flip, it's going to be by around 1 to 2%. It's not going to be 5%. So yeah, that's a bad call. And here remains 2nd Congressional District, Biden plus 2.5. I mean, it is possible, because Obama did win there by around the same amount that Trump won there, but I don't see it happening, because Donald Trump is the one running this time around. It's not like it's Biden versus Romney, Biden versus McCain. So yes, it might balance out a bit, but it won't go to Joe Biden. And if you're going to still keep Maine a fairly competitive Maine at large, then I do believe that the 2nd Congressional District should at least narrowly go to Donald Trump. So yeah, it has a really big rural identity, and it's gonna be hard for the Democrats to appeal to those types of voters. So especially now, where there's a huge divide between urban voters and rural voters, with the battleground being suburban voters, which you don't see a lot of them in Maine's 2nd Congressional District. That's the real divide. So a lot of these districts that are just dominated by rural areas, they're going to start going Republican, even more than they are now. So yeah, that's the end of the video. We have Trump getting 131 and Biden with 407. This is not actually what I believe will happen. I can't stress that enough, because I know that there are going to be some people who just look at the thumbnail or just skip to the end, and they just see this map, and they're going to jump to the conclusion that this is what I actually believe will happen. But this entire video has been a critique of this map, so I'm just going to hope that everybody understands that. This is probably the worst map that I've ever seen regarding the election. The JHK forecast had some problems with it, but it's good compared to this one. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.